All right, welcome to another episode of Investing Quito. Got my co-host here, Jeremy, and today
Hey.
we've got a special guest. It's an honor to have them on our show. I met Tiffany and Duane a couple years ago, and they just got a great story. And I want to bring them on the show and have them share their story and the lessons that they learned along the way. So, Tiffany and Duane, welcome to our show.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Like I said, I think you were one of the first meetup that I went to in when I moved to Billings, and you guys were just so welcoming and gracious with your time and with your knowledge, and wanted to get you guys on here and kind of give the audience your backstory and how you got into real estate and kind of your journey and to where you guys are today.
Oh, I love it.
Sounds good. Yeah, I mean, I literally started at 19 buying my first two houses. Um, about 2 years before Tiffany and I got together and met, so got married at 22. But yeah, I had a family that was very much into real estate, and they didn't invest a whole lot, but they did a little bit. Then I had a grandfather that helped me get in my first two houses, co-signing for me on an FHA loan and everything. So we went, through the years, and then bought a few more houses, married Tiffany, had 5 houses. And then through the years, we just did a lot of fixer flippers, like, better than 100 to date. And so we went through the 2008 debacle and
Actually,
stuff.
it's 2007 that we
2007,
went through it.
2008,
Yeah.
felt like
Uh-huh.
years.
Everybody
years.
calls it 2008, so that's what we call it, but it really happened earlier than that.
Yeah,
So
so we were able to survive through it. Lost a lot of money, and there was a lot of projects that we just weren't able to finish, but we were able to make all our people that we had private money with whole, and it was one of the hardest times of our life, but we have learned. And now with this second time coming through it a little bit, not nearly as bad as last time, we were blessed and thriving. So there's the quick story of it.
yeah, and I will say, having gone through 2008, at that time, imagine we met at 22, and I wasn't actually an insurance agent. So I had a 4-month-old baby, and I remember going and his family's so close. And so my family, we love each other, but we're not like in each other's business and stuff, and, multiple marriages and things like that. So I didn't grow up in that kind of environment, loving family, but just, not quite still married after all these years. So we spent a lot of time with Duane's parents because I felt like that's kind of the model, right? They're still married. His grandparents were all stayed married. And so when we were spending time with them, I knew right away, like, I better get in real estate or I don't have anything to talk about with these people, and I really care about them. So I got my license, and yeah. And from there, we were doing fixers at first, and then we were doing developing. We did some townhomes that we partnered with the builder on. That was pretty tough, so there are some really good highs and some really low lows, even when things were great. So similar to like what we all experience in actual real estate. And then when 2007 hit, we were just devastated. Like, we lost about $6 million in real estate. And we're like, what do we do if we don't do real estate for a living? Like, all our kids are like, just going into middle school and then into high school. So we're like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? And so we ended up kind of moving, licking our wounds. It took a couple years to negotiate through a lot of those mortgages that we did. Some of the banks that we had loans with actually went out of business. Presidents of those banks went to jail. So it really was like, I know in some areas it hit harder than others. And in our community, it hit extremely hard. And so everywhere we turned, everybody was in pain and suffering. And so we, we're in other, I was in marketing. Duane was like, I can build anything. So, he did construction. And so we just kind of went through, but we always, even when we had time off, we did fixers. So we would flip just like a house kind of here and there. But then Duane had surgery and on his shoulder and was sitting in a chair. And I was like, we keep talking about getting back into real estate. If we ever do it, now's the time. And so we kind of dove head deep into it. But we were scared. So like everything, we were afraid of everything at first, but we're like, we have to like get out of this. We know this is the mindset that will take us down. And so we were really determined to spend whatever it took to get coaching, to get mentors, to be just surrounded by people that we knew would just drag us through it. Right. And so we did that, and we were watching for the things that would freak, like we were watching for our own mindsets. Like, what are we afraid of? Because then we're going to need to call. We're going to have to call our mentors and say, hey, we're having that feeling. And so they're like, this is what you're going to do, X, Y, Z, And so it was really nice to have that mentorship. We did have mentors before, but our mentors were also being taken down in 2008. So it was like, nobody has any advice because everyone's like losing it. But through as soon as those interest rates hit, and then construction prices practically doubled, like everybody here this time around, that was our moment. Like it was like, we knew it was coming, just in the last, right after COVID, and we're just like, okay, it's going to happen. And then when it started to happen, we just hung tight onto our mentors, like, okay, this is the moment. And so we were having to, make adjustments and do really hard things to get through it. And so the other side of it is we were building community. So while we were getting a hand up, we were also helping. That's one of the main reasons we pour into our group. We started that group really just wanting to join a group, like get into a group, but every group in Billings was like not actually meeting. And so I finally did a big sigh and went, oh, fine, we'll just start a group then, and we'll just make it, couple decades of, real estate meetups, we didn't like going. So in the past, like when we did it before in our first round, we just didn't enjoy it. So we're like, okay, we love to go to dinner with people and talk about real estate. So if we just keep it like that, and that was like, 3 years ago. So our best friends, we've met in that group, and
like Quito.
Yeah. And Jeremy, we're getting to know you too. But so, I mean, going from the 2008, what we went through there, and then flash forwarding to where we're at now, one of the big hurdles was the mortgage interest rates going up. I felt like that was a big milestone for us, because we were because you don't lose until you quit. And so all these years, I've interviewed on my own podcast, real estate agents who made their fortunes in 2007, 2008. Like they started then, and they're like making, over $100 million now. Or selling over $100 million worth of real estate. And so Duane and I were just so determined that we were going to, the money doesn't leave, it moves. So it's like, you have to be around people who are super smart, super supportive, so that you can find where it goes. Our next big milestone that we're overcoming right now is, the one thing that took us down in 2007, like the turning point was, we had a 32 unit apartment building that we were working on. So we had all the plans, the dirt work had just begun. So we had a line of credit and it was all underway. And then the bank called it due, like they're just pipes sticking up. Like there's, it's really not worth a ton more. So it just kind of took everything from there. It was just a house of cards. And so right now, as a lot of people know, it's like we have this 22 unit project that we're working on in the Bird, which, we celebrate it by wearing shirts like that all the time. And with that, like, again, we've leaned into our mentors, but beyond that, like we still were feeling like we're not getting all the answers we need. And so what we've done is like just being really proactive in who has done it here and made money. I don't want to hear excuses from mentors in some other state going, oh, I don't really know your market. It's like, well, that's not a good enough reason. I still need help. So just digging in and finding the right people to help. So that's our journey. So I think people has just, number one, they're the best part of the business anyway. But then also it's really the difference between being able to not quit or quitting, because not quitting is really sometimes the goal. Sometimes the goal is just like, stick it out. Like we don't know what's on the other side. So
exactly. Like even like today at 3:00, we're meeting with a guy who has 800 and some units, and just like advice and
here's our project.
Yeah.
How do we do this properly?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Don't we see?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it sounds like, just really learning from, from 2008, you know, is really leaning into someone that's doing the things that you want to do, right? And then learning from them, like, hey, how do we, how do we get past this, right? Um, so I mean, what's one of your other lessons that you learned during that time, looking back? It's like, man, at that time you may not have realized it, right? Because you're going through the situation, but looking back, what else have you learned from 2008 that that you can take on moving forward?
I think processes.
Yeah, processes,
That's
being
a big
more
part of it.
clear exactly what we do. We did so many fixer flippers, and we really did them kind of from the hip.
Mhm.
Just kind of
Like we
literally-
generally knew how much it was going to, I mean, we knew how much it was going to cost, and it did. Like we stayed on budget pretty
yeah,
good.
I mean, probably as you know, Quito, we would go into a house within 30 to 40 minutes of going through that house, or even less. You know what you're going to offer, what it's going to be. But now we kind of go through there and it's like, no, we're going to look through the house, make the offer, and then we're going to go through and actually get hard numbers now. And so we're much more clear on, is this an $80,000 fix up or a $120,000 fix up? Or is it just a little lipstick and 15,000,
And also timing, like treating timing like a budget as well. Cause that time, we all know like time is money, but we usually did about 2 properties per month when we were in Washington back before the 2008 thing. And that was generally our pace, was a couple a month. And we know now, like if we actually want to scale beyond something like that, that we're going, it has to be, the plans are done. We've got floor plans, we've got bids, we've got scopes, so that when the contractors come in, the subs come in, they know they can, scan it and know like that's what, the scope is and things like that. So we haven't gotten there yet, but we're tightening that up. Every project it's gotten tighter and tighter. So.
So for you, it's really been, it sounds like mentorship and association's been just crucial to that. So as a young guy, like I'm trying to figure things out. I ask questions of you guys all the time, like Quito, and you guys know the people in the real estate community in Billings. So how important is that? And like, how do people find, if they're just new or just getting started in investing, like how do people go and find those things? And what do you look for in a relationship like that?
Well, like the investment group we have, the investment group you guys have, that's to me one of the best, just to get in there and it's like, who are these people? Why they're speaking a different language than me? How do I learn that language? And it really is. I mean, Quito is like the king of, sub-Qs, creative finance, all that kind of cool stuff, and then we've done a lot of it too. So
well, and finding people, because just because somebody's done it doesn't mean they're a good mentor. And I think that that's a really good thing to learn. So that's why groups are nice, because like in our group, for example, there's such a great networking that you get, it's like you're breaking bread with all these different people in different places, in, different focuses, and you just get to know what they do and how they do it. And if they have done a lot already, then you can get a feel for like, is this somebody that, you can ask them, like, can I call you every week? The biggest thing with a new person, though, if you really want the best mentor, you have to just do it. Like you can't pick their brain more than twice and not take action, or they're not going to help you. So when we go to mentors, the local ones especially, like I feel like we've gotten the best advice from the free mentors that we've gotten, and we've offered to pay them. And they're like, nope, we just, we care about you. And those, like, that matches our values, because like that's how we like to operate. And they share values with us. So like, for example, we put God first. And so our mentors, we've been really blessed with having people that they do that. If I go to a mentor and that doesn't match up, or if someone's like, I don't want to be talking about God all the time, then they wouldn't be, like neither of us would be happy. So, so like, even if, we're pretty proactive, like, one of the biggest mentors here in town that we have, I literally wrote it on I knew that he was the biggest apartment developer, wrote his name on a piece of paper, and that was on the same list that Duane had to call subs. So he was like, why do I have to call this guy? And I was like, he is your next mentor. Like, you're going to call him. But if Duane had called him and he wasn't really engaged, then probably wouldn't work. Also, if we weren't the type of people where, if we weren't the type of people that when he says do this and we don't do it, he would not have talked to us again. Because people like that, like people who are doing real estate or even Quito or, you know, like you can't be like calling and then going, oh yeah, I forgot to do that. Like it just, because it's hard for us to do what we're saying we're doing. And so we want to surround ourselves with other people who are doing that. And so if you're doing that, it's like, yeah, come on in. Like, I like that. I need more people who are taking action, you know? So they're feeling like you're one of them going, you're inspiring me because you're like busting your butt. And I forgot what that was like, you know? But if you just constantly are like, oh yeah, you know, we had a call yesterday where we had someone saying like, oh yeah, I hope to do that. And I was like, well, this isn't the group for hoping to do it. Like, if you're going to do it, you know, and, you know, but you can pay people tens of thousands of dollars and, you know, drive them crazy about it. And they'll keep bringing you back because they're getting paid for it. But if you really want the people who are doing it because they just care about you, that they just simply want to help you, it won't last. So, and that's one thing I see, a common mistake with newbies, that they don't realize the power of action, not just for their own self, but for the mentors that they can attract.
Yeah, I know Quito is, he's talked about that before, Quito. It's like, and he tells me all the time, like, just do something. It's like, just take some kind of action, take the next step. And so I think that's your biggest strength. Quito is like that same kind of thing. So that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
So, you know, moving forward, like you're working this project, what inspired you to move on to doing, you know, building a multi, you know, family apartment complex?
That property, we bought an 8-unit on the other end of the block, and we honestly just started buying most of the rest of the block, all but one house. And it was just by, you know, like I said, the grace of God and amazing, these people just kept selling it to us at a decent price. And all of a sudden we owned this other half or a good portion of the block. And then we found out, wow, we should look into zoning instead of just fixing these couple of houses and having a lot. And it's like, wow, we can build something up to 6 stories if we wanted to, which we don't want to, for the neighborhood. And so now we've taken all those, it's technically 6 lots, and put them all into one lot. And now we've gone through the process. It's out of permits, and we have a few things we have to fix on the permit stuff, which is a normal process through the county or the city. And we said, let's go for it. We're still in the process. It's one of our biggest challenges we've had in many years. So we're working through it.
And there are 2 other things that made us really want to do it. So it really went from like one fixer. We were going to do the fixer. We partnered up with someone else actually. And then we learned about the zoning, and then we started picking up other lots, and we're like, but really the tipping point were 2 things. One was the fact that the city has TIF funds available for removing the blight and creating housing and making something pretty for the public. And so that was a huge opportunity to be able to leverage that to offset a lot of these rising building costs. The other thing is, in the mastermind that we were in, we were getting all these people on talking about new construction and how much better it is because it's not, you know what you have, like you just go in and build it. I mean, I still like fixers better. I don't know if we'll do another new build, but that is what really triggered us to be courageous to kind of move forward. And because it was, for me, it was a fear moment where it was like, I don't know if I want to do an apartment. Our kids even said like, are you sure you want to do an apartment? Like, that was the last thing that you guys started before everything fell apart. So, but it just seems like God just kept kind of moving us to that. In fact, we started to try to sell it, and everybody was like, I don't want to buy it, but I might want to invest in it. You know, if you guys are doing it, like, so we just kept getting pushed down that road. So I just think it's a lot of good learning. We're meeting a lot of great people because of it. And so it's a positive thing, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, very much.
Yeah. So during the process, what's one of the nuggets that you've learned? Like, oh wow, I didn't realize this, or as you're going through. So what could you share with one of your learning nuggets from
the new
process?
Construction? Or oh, okay.
Boy, great question.
There's so many. I mean, really finance, I mean, going through the TIF process, it has been a big learning thing, and how important, you really know how important housing is when the city will back you with financing and enthusiastically. So that's been kind of one thing. It's really hard. Like, there's just so many moving parts, and so many segments. I think it's really helping us put together processes for our fixer business, because that's something we want to be doing. And there, I mean, literally when you build, there are things that you just don't do when you do fixers, you know? So
Mhm.
And we're in the process, and just, we can't give up, you know, right now, as much as we feel like we want to sometimes, we're so far in, we got to meet the right banker. We're going to get the right bank. Every bank has their specialty things they like to loan on, or, you know, if it's new construction, or if it's just typical houses, or lines of credit, HELOCs or something like that. So we're just trying to just flip rocks and find good investors, and local investors really seem to be what the answer is going to be, I feel. So,
I know a big learning thing.
okay.
Get an appraisal once you combine the property and entitle it. Like once you're at the point where you're getting the permits, apparently that's a big deal. And we
Yeah.
didn't learn that till later. So, so that was a good
Took
one.
an extra 6 weeks to
Yeah, it added
get
6 weeks to
that.
the process.
And then,
So,
and also when you're in appraisals, don't be afraid to challenge the appraiser on anything you buy. You know, if you feel like this came in too low, or, you know, or something's missed. So,
and that was a mentor. Like he was like, well, did you get an appraisal yet? We're like, no.
yeah, think about
Are we
that.
supposed to get an appraisal? He's like, yeah. And we'd already talked to like other builders who were, you know, like I said, we talked to out of town people, and I'm like, you would think that that would be something they would have recommended that we do. But so we were really grateful that he brought that up, and it was
So
helpful.
what is having that appraisal done sooner? What is that? How does that benefit you guys? Or what's the
It helps in the
advantage of
lending process.
Yeah, in the lending
Yeah.
process. So it helps validate, like, yes, we have numbers that are actually backed up now.
So we got to build, like once it's built, this is it. So they're estimating like right now, if it was built today with the rents where they are today, this is what it would be worth right now. So, you know, it doesn't really tell you what's going to happen in the future, but it does tell you
Right.
like if it were built right now. And then the bank has more like, oh, okay, so you didn't just make this up, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
We
Okay.
know when we're fixing stuff up, there's numbers change a lot, or you don't know something. And so having that appraisal really helps just validate
Set
your
the bar.
numbers, set the bar. So,
Mhm.
so you go into somebody and say, hey, could you loan me $4 million, please? And they're going, what?
Mhm.
You know? And now
Mhm.
he's like, well, we had an appraisal, and
Mhm.
it's this old, and this is what they're saying. So it really validates you to like, yes, this is legit. You know, these are who we're thinking is going to build it. This is how we're going to build it. This is the time frame. And
It's really important to be bankable too. So while a lot of times we're teaching like this is how you get in, you don't have to have great credit, like all these things, it is so it's like fuel on the fire to be bankable. And to do a project like this, you really need capital and you need to be bankable. And so that I think that's another thing that kind of makes me go, I don't know, like I know how to go into even a big fixer, like how you could go in and, you know, manage that with limited.
yeah, we recently bought an 8 unit here in the last 3 months, and that's just, you know, owner financing, all,
Yeah.
you know, stuff
Using
like
the
that.
equity for leverage.
Today, or not today, but today we're meeting with a guy that's going to be doing a second on it. And so we're just leveraging everything. And that's for us, and like Quito, and I don't know you, but Jeremy, but there's definitely, you know, that's kind of what we do. That's our wheelhouse, is buying stuff and fixing them, and, you know, owner terms.
And there are ways to leverage it in the same way, like to run a syndication or a fund or something like that. But at the end of the day, that costs money to set up. So it's not like, you know, like you still have to have capital to do that. And then carrying costs, you know, when you're developing all of it, it's like just like the appraisal, that's 6 weeks. So you have a high interest loan that you're carrying. It's, you know, it all adds up. So all of a sudden that good deal on a piece of land turns into a whole bunch of carrying costs. And so it's just, there's a lot more to it, but there's, you know, it's kind of like developing in California, right? Like you're watching all those numbers that they make when they do a flip. Well, when you develop, you kind of have that opportunity where it's like, it could go, you have a lot more permits. So it's more like doing a big fixer in the city where you have to get all the permits, you have to do all the things. It could go longer, it could go shorter. But at the end of the day, you can make a better return, or you could lose it, you know? So it's just more risk, but more potential
Yeah,
upside.
we've gone to the project, say, yeah, this is an $80,000 flip. We can make this all day long. At the end of the day, we make 20.
Yeah, but it's lower
Like you miss
risk.
something.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
a sewer line plugged, a new sewer line, or just all
Mhm.
kinds of things can come up.
But when you're starting out and you're like, oh, it's a $5 million bill, it's just a little bit, scary.
Intimidating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That can get intimidating, right?
Yeah.
But
But
I,
it's doable. It's just more zeros.
right,
So
right. And that's one thing that I admire about you guys, because I'm in the background just kind of watching you guys, go through the process. So it's really, inspiring me just watching you guys go through the process and just sharing about what you're going through. So
oh,
I appreciate that about you guys.
Yeah.
oh.
So I have a
Thanks,
question for you
Peter.
guys. What's your guys' usual like business model? I know that some people are like just flippers and that's their main income and they don't have any passive real estate holds, or some people just do syndicates and that's their main money maker. Do you guys have a bit of both, or do you guys have focus on one, or is it kind of all encompassing with an end goal in mind of passive income or things like that?
Well, we do about a flip a quarter. Like that's our goal, or more. Like we're kind of talking about doing more actually, but that's our goal, and that's our like how we pay our bills.
Or
It's
how we
our
buy-
fundraiser.
Yeah, how we buy groceries.
Yeah. And then, yeah, but then we also have multifamily that we, value add multifamily that we also do, excuse me, simultaneously. And we try to kind of balance it so that while we're working on management, because usually like this recent 8-unit, it's mostly management fix up. So there's a lot of work to do physically on it, but the biggest, like this whole time since we bought it, that's all we've focused on was really the management and then safety issues. So, so Duane's been able to he just fixed up a house in 60 days. So, and it was like burned out and stuff. So it was like a major fixer, and he just like turn and burn because he knew that he had this 8-unit right behind it. So then as we're moving in, testing our new processes to see if we can, see how amazing it's going to be to like be managing it with a really nice schedule, then he can go do another flip. Was that kind of how you're seeing?
Yeah, exactly. So we have the fix and flip, which is, our short term, because if you keep anything under a year, it's short term capital gains like a job. And then anything over a year is, long term, which is, much better on the taxes. But our rental, our multifamily and our keepers, our fix and keep, our goal is $400 net per unit
Per door.
per door per month.
Nice.
That's just
So we'll be going through all the numbers this year too. So by the time, like, hopefully interest rates will go down. And so what we'll start doing is kind of selling our gems, which we call them, because some of our favorite ones have the lowest profit, but they're the ones who got us back into real estate. So we'll have them in a really good spot, and then we'll end up probably selling them if they don't meet that criteria, just to really clean everything up so that we're meeting those goals. And a lot of that, in fact, we're working through this book again, but that book Traction, where, you're setting really clear goals and sticking to it, so keeping promises to ourselves, I think right now is a big deal.
But eventually is the goal like long-term holds for cash flow, and then like taking those profits, putting them into long-term holds.
Yeah, playing cash flow, we want to flip the board.
yes.
So. Nice. So, I know you guys are as a couple. I mean, what advice would you give to to a couple that's working together in real estate? Because you guys been married. Was it like how many years now?
31.
31 years. That's right. Because it's your anniversary coming up soon.
Yeah, we just
Yesterday.
Was it yesterday?
Oh,
Okay,
fun.
yeah. So congratulations.
Congrats.
Thank you.
So what's an advice that you could give to a young couple that's that's been together and they're going to get into real estate? I mean, what's advice that you could give them so they can last 31 years?
Totally listen to each other, because I know in the beginning I was more just let's do it this way. I got to do it this way, and let's just do it, and I just got to do everything. And then throughout the years, Tiffany's like, if we want to scale and grow, you need to get help. You can't do everything, and just listen to your spouse. So if you're gonna do it as a couple, you got to do it together and respect each other. Which to this day, after 31 years,
We still work on it.
struggle.
Yeah. And it's a lot about being present. I think lately, I would say that that's been our biggest kind of breakthrough is just really both of us working on being present. So when we're talking, because we're so used to hearing each other talk that sometimes we're just like, yeah, I already know what that person's going to say. And so just being in that moment, because you know, like I always tell Duane, you're not a very good mind reader. So like, I know you think, and I'm the same way. So I'm not bashing him. Like, I know that I do the same thing.
She'll come into a place and it's like, why did you get brushed nickel faucets in it? And I just, you know, I was at Lowe's, I was buying a couple $1,000s worth of stuff for this thing and I just want to get it done. And I just know that her favorite thing and what she's good at is the decor and the colors and putting all the pieces together with, as far as, you know, the looks and the cabinet color and all that. And
Respect each other's roles.
respect
That's
each
the
other's
other
roles.
thing.
We're so often
Yeah.
in
Because
the
like
past,
he is, yeah, he's
I
the boss
didn't.
of it.
I just like,
Yeah.
okay, screw this. This is the cheapest knob and I like it and let's go.
Yeah.
And it's amazing sometimes paying an extra $1 a little door knob for your cabinet.
It makes all the
All of a
difference.
sudden people walk in, I love that. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, that cost me $22 more, but
And
she was right.
And relationally, I think it goes to say, even beyond just being, it's nice that we're married because like we can fight it out. But when you have staff and you're not respecting their role, if you feel like, oh, well, it's not that important, so I'm just going to do it because I'm at Lowe's anyway, you know, imagine how that person feels like, well, if it's not that important of a job, why am I wasting my time on it? You know, and that literally becomes a thing. So, and then another thing I'll say that has changed, two other things that have changed. One is, I mean, again, you know, faith is a big part of it. So like reading the Bible and praying together, if we don't, it shows. Like every time it shows. And then the other thing is, lately we've been getting really fit together as well. So we have like these, we eat really healthy and we just walk, like we walk a couple miles together and it just changes everything. So when we talk about being focused, you know, a lot of that has to do with in the morning. We just have time just not think. And then, you know, then we like reconnect and we kind of have a goal of a spot where we don't talk about business until we're on our way back from that. And, you know, just to try to empty our minds a little bit. So we're not so, because we love real estate. So both of us would just be like, okay, is it okay for us to talk about this now? You know? So it's just kind of being really taking the temperature on all the different parts of your life. And, you know, I think that's helped a lot.
Just like today, just before this meeting, we drove for an hour and a half, just looking for properties, just looking for gems anywhere, you know,
which is
taking
fun.
down addresses. And it's one of our favorite. That's how we found a lot of properties, just driving for dollars, just.
Yeah. And we know it's
look
not how
at
you
that house. The windows are broken.
Yeah.
They're not keeping it up. And, you know, let's get the address or knock on the door and that's what we'll do. So.
And it's not how you scale, but it's just, it brings back the joy of what we're doing. It's how we found every project that we did before 2008, like every single one of them. That's how we found it. And now that's how we find a lot of them still. And we don't need that many right now until we are really feeling comfortable with the processes so that we feel confident that we can hire multiple crews and things like that. But it's regardless, we'll still do it because it's like it centers us a little bit on what we're doing and why we like it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, you know, for sharing your story. You know, inspiring story of, you know, from 2008 to you guys rebuilding and sharing the lessons that you've learned along the way. And, you know, for me, just, you know, I also work with my wife. So hearing your perspective, how you guys keep it together for 31 years, we're 10 years behind you guys. So we'll be
That's
at
still
that 21
amazing.
years. Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah. So thanks for sharing those nuggets.
Of course.
So,
Thank you.
and I
thank you.
know you guys have your meetups, and how can people, what's the best way for people to get a hold of you guys?
Well, if you want to be part of our group, just go to billingsmeetup.com and just fill out the form. And then you start getting invitations to our group. And then you get an invitation to the Facebook group and things like that. Other than that, we're on social media, across social media at the Youngren team. So that would be another way to find us.
All right. Well, thank you for being on our show and sharing your wisdom and then your process with us.
Of course, you're welcome. Thanks for asking us. Thanks for inviting us.
All right.
Absolutely, guys. Thanks.